Hello. So another gorgeous day. I seem to time these videos with decent weather. It has to be said. London Marathon. I didn't run it. It was a jacket free for trying to enter it, which I seem to have tried to do a few times. Anyway, off the subject. So today's video, I wanted to talk about. Some of you may have seen I did do a previous video on perception, which I do want to kind of readdress because I think perception is important. And with any videos, anything we deal with day to day, there's always a perception. We have a perception, which I suppose you could almost call judgment on most things within life. And another thing, what I wanted to sort of follow from, and I am trying to add a bit more structure to these videos, I still want them to be very raw and authentic and very from the heart, because that's how I've always spoken, and I'm not a very textbook person, and I do admit that. Which is why I've done a video on contradiction, because I know sometimes I can be a bit like, oh, well, I've said that. Do you know what? Today I think that, which is okay. I think it's a human nature. Let's say you don't want to be thinking like well, I suppose it works for some. Let's just say that. So today I wanted to talk about boundaries, really, because me and a friend have been talking this morning, and we've been talking about just a lot of general stuff. Sort of, he's very spiritually minded, so we were just having a conversation that dipping in and out. To be honest, it was like 4 a.m, went back to sleep, 6 a.m, went back to sleep. So there's always all these ideas flying through my head and flying through his, so it seems. But he just mentioned, I'll just come out of the gym and come back to a message, and he mentioned about boundaries, and that sort of almost people sort of pushes in effect. And I mean, the definition of a boundary, so to speak, is it's something that indicates bounds or limits. And, there's that saying, isn't there, you've crossed the line, crossing the line referring to, I assume, boundaries or a boundary. And that was something, I'll talk about my history of boundaries. From quite a big family, I think we very much... I like the fact that we didn't fend for ourselves. I mean, but there's 6 of us, so I'm sure people with a lot of siblings will sort of sympathise. It's like you can't be watched all the time. Bless my mother, and my dad, of course. Yeah, he's a nice guy. But so basically, you can't be watched all the time. So I think the trouble is you're almost creating your own boundaries. And when you get older, you're adding on to those boundaries, or in effect, kind of restricting them a bit more. Because I found no one wakes up and says, right, today I'm going to cross your boundaries, or I'm going to sort of infringe on them, so to speak. And I think, and I've done the same. I've pushed and pushed, sometimes to get what I want. And, when you're younger, especially, but it's that typical thing when you're in your 20s. I think we're very much like, oh, God, yeah, we know everything. The world's great. Then you get your T30s and you're like, oh, I knew nothing in my 20s, or I knew a lot less. But then it comes with confidence and self-assurance and courage of conviction and everything else. But I found I lacked boundaries quite a lot, and it's not till more recently that I think I'm saying yes. I think no is as important as yes, because I'm a bit of a yes man, and through being a yes man, I have got in some of the best situations. I think I've overcome a lot of fears through being a yes man, and that was mainly through letting people. I didn't want to let people down. I wanted to be part of groups and stuff, and like with all my friends, and it's like in a positive way. I mean, and thank God I've got the friends I have, because they've made me push past like some unnecessary boundaries I had, which was like stepping out your comfort zone. There it is. Your comfort zone is your comfort zone classed as a boundary, and I think it is. It's one you've put in place, and I think it's nice and refreshing that your friends can actually pull you out of those boundaries. But in the same respect, I think with certain other things, other types of friends, maybe acquaintances, even partners, not necessarily sort of long-term partners. I mean, a one-night stand or whatever. It's like they can often, it can be your boundaries can be crossed, so to speak. And if you're lacking boundaries, which I think we do when we're younger, it can be you're then riddled with all these levels of guilt and shame, and almost questioning yourself, which is ultimately where everything else comes in, where you're trying to mask and hide and bury what it is. And I mean, now I find I'm selective. So comfort zones are a boundary, I'm realizing, and being selective is another form of boundary forming. So being selective, I think sometimes, and I don't mean this against anyone in particular, even though I'm about to say it, sometimes I think I've kind of got in a relationship because I thought, right, on paper, that is exactly what I wanted, what I needed, what I asked for. But actually, like, are they really suited to me? Do they complement my personality? But more to the point as well, and I think you really have to admit this sometimes. Do you complement theirs? Are you good for them? I know for friends and stuff like that, like, I am a decent person, and I like to count myself as a decent person. I like to know I can help anyone if I can. But at the same time, I am toxic for some ex-partners. And to admit that is, and I've always said it, it's like, at the end of the day, two people don't work, they don't work, and it's toxic. It's like constantly drinking poison. It's like, you are just being at detriment to your personality, and they are being at detriment to theirs. But then it's up to you to have the strength to walk away if you need to, and them to have the strength to walk away if they need to. And just respecting that and realising that, again, creating boundaries. So, so that's my perception on boundaries. Anyway, you might have a completely different one. This is, other than the definition, it's not taken out of the book. It's what I think anyway, and what I've come to realise, because I think it's only more recently that I have put boundaries in place, and I still lack a lot, and I still have some that are too tight. And it really takes sort of pushing through anxiety and that to actually break through these boundaries. I also think respect and sort of purpose are boundaries in effect. Having respect for someone's boundaries and respecting others' boundaries. Sorry, that's the same thing. Having respect for someone's boundaries and respecting others' boundaries, but them respecting yours too. And then a bit of, would this be classed as paradox? By you respecting their boundaries and them respecting yours, you actually create more respect. Do you know what I mean? So, and I think then you understand each other as a unit. So, as a friendship, as a partnership. And I think here's the thing as well, because I know I've done a video on communication, asking. So then you understand boundaries. How are you ever supposed to know? Until someone, like, in the end, you push it too far, crossing the line, and you go, and they go, no, So it's worth, so communication is key within respecting, understanding, and getting over people's boundaries and them getting over yours. So that was something that just popped into my head, so I thought that was quite useful to sort of put in place. And I think they have a purpose, boundaries do. I have written a few notes, I'm sure you can tell. They do have a purpose. They have a purpose to protect us. They have a purpose to help us understand each other and our environments. And I think they have a purpose to send us in the right direction and on the right path. So that being said, I will conclude. So boundaries, her video, I think is quite true to heart and quite a new way of thinking for myself. Because I just thought, boundaries is something that I've formed naturally, like they come and go. But no, I think you have to put work into them to put them in place and to have them in place. And you can almost pass that knowledge of boundaries on, really, to your children or whatever. I mean, I won't be having children, but anyone that I sort of speak to, and and helping people sort of realise. So on that note, I will leave you to have a good Sunday and enjoy the rest of the day.